All right, let's do some sound tests. One, two, three. All right, there we go. Hey. My name's Dave. It's Mountain Branch Music. And my hot little hands today, with a little glare, I have the Firefly V1 Pegasus. It's kind of a mystical beast. I think that's a fitting tribute to how Phish and Trey fans behold the Languedoc style guitars. So it's kind of fun. This is like a G2 style. I've talked about these before. But I was noticing there was no real comparison between the two. So I wanted to do that today, but it's not really a fair comparison, and I'll get to that in a minute. So there we are. We have the G2, or second generation Pegasus there, and a highly modified, barely left Clapton stratocaster, which will come into play in a little bit. But we're going to talk about it acoustically, because they are a little different. That's the main difference. I've been trying to emphasize this in the forums and on videos and stuff. This is fully hollow body, even though it's like a route back construction. And I'm not going to amplify it much more than that, or at all. This is unplugged. And we heard it plugged in the beginning, and it was all mostly the same. It's the stock pickups, but there were some modifications we're going to get to in a second. So I'm going to put this up for a bit. I got a new mixer I'm trying out here. Still got a little tangle of chords, but I want to optimize kind of directness and authenticity when I'm making these for y'all. So I don't want to do a lot of edits and hype and jump rolls and all that stuff, or whatever they call it, whatever the kids are calling it these days. So here's the V2. I'm going to steal the tuner off that other one, and we'll see how that compares. It's a little less acoustic, but it's also just a different kind of acoustic, because this one does have a center block. It does have a carved back. This doesn't have the burst on the back like some do. And they did a newer version, looks like the exact same construction, but with darker colors. And there's a couple of us on the Firefly pages. They seem to take requests. There's a couple of us on there really pulling for a true Marmar style, with all the vintage first generation Languedoc. There's a couple little kind of kinks in the horns and stuff, and the middle pickup, of course. So we'll see. It's kind of interesting company. It's all kind of like direct, made to order, obviously overseas. But this one, I made other videos about it, but the build quality is higher. The fit and finish is a little cleaner. The neck is thicker, and it feels a little more sturdy. The binding is a little more, well, it continues onto the headstock. And, binding, some people, like in Gibson land, talk about binding and love that. But this has this is a 5-ply binding. and a 2-ply around the F-holes. So people like that. It does give it a little more kind of just a premium specialness, if you like that kind of thing. And I had the spalted one originally. That was the first one that dropped. And this is a flamey maple. I'm sure it's a veneer, so not a big deal. But lately, I've been thinking about this. The center block, you can see it ends right about just behind the bridge. So it does. Some people say that's a hollow body, but I've been thinking about it more almost like a Les Paul Supreme, the old style they did. You know, because it is very solid through here. The neck joint was a standout on the version 1 Pegasus. That had a lot more low end resonance than a lot of like cheap hollow bodies I had played before. And I thought it was kind of their history with making Les Paul kind of things. They were pretty good at setting that neck joint in real good. And this even seems like a continuation of that. And I think they just wanted to emphasize that stability, because there is kind of a flimsiness. The neck is thinner. It doesn't feel 100% straight. That's just kind of a gut that, you know, if you've played a lot, you can tell when the neck isn't really true. I'm not going to get out the calipers or the level or anything like that, but this one does feel more spot on in that sense. The frets are about the same, maybe even not quite as good as on the first generation. Electronics, I haven't had an issue with yet, but I wouldn't trust them to, 6 months on the road or anything like that without some repairs. So it's not much acoustically, but let's bring that beat back and jam out a little bit. So this is all going through the Princeton recording amp. I traded the PRS Vela away, so I got this guy in the house, and it's got a compressor and a overdrive built in. And it's one of these situations. Anyway, I'll do another video on that. I don't want to get ahead of myself. It's nice though. But for now, for kind of consistency, I'm still using the floor pedal board. And I've flipped up the orientation, obviously. Hopefully I don't have to talk through my pedal board changes as much. I should add, for those keeping score at home, I do have the attenuator about halfway rolled back on that. So that's that. Now, the reason why this is not anywhere close to an apples to apples comparison, I'm going to unplug this and swatch out what's on the stand. So I had this one modified, and the reason I have the Clapton Strat in the background, we can do a little comparison. So even just this, so I've modified this. I put in a battery box down here. I had some friends at the local music store put in a a different circuit in here. So there were 4 knobs on here, kind of like classic Les Paul. I'm gonna stop that for a second. Kind of classic Les Paul wiring layout. It came to me, which now I'm more into Les Pauls, but when I first got this, I got this used from just a guy on the side of the road in Oklahoma. We met there. I didn't just see it on the side of the road, but I wasn't really used to this control setup. I guess it's more SG layout because the knob is there. But so I was thinking, like, what could I do to make this more kind of useful? And especially, you know, I'm always doing the videos about infinite sustain and stuff like that. So I got a Clapton mid-boost circuit, and I put it on this, the top tone knob, what would be the tone knob. And it came with the TBX circuit, which is actually just 2 stacked tone pots. And so the chip is in there, kind of in a similar place to where it would be for a Clapton Strat. It's kind of routed out into the Strat. And then, so the TBX was too tall to fit in here. So they did a real heroic job at the shop to wedge it in there. But then as I was using it, it kind of fell apart. So I was like, you know, screw it. I'm just going to put in a real good 500 ohm tone pot in there, which, you know, I wired up backwards, but that's fine. I'll fix that later. And then, so this one is the EMG Afterburner that they put in the Gilmore Strat. So this is kind of a super, very British circuit. So it's got the Clapton boost and the Gilmore boost on there. So the Clapton boost is a 500 hertz, which is a little below the peak of like a tube screamer. So it's 25 decibels, which is probably all the gain that a tube screamer has, especially the older ones. And then this is like, you can look it up. I want to say it's 75. It's ridiculous. But you know, if you use a lot of compression or your amp is on the verge of breakup, those numbers just kind of mush out and create more fuzz. But if you could go from playing, I haven't done this yet, but you could go like a real clean amp and just go wild. I mean, this could be one of the most dynamic instruments, clean instruments with that overdrive built in, imaginable. I certainly can't imagine it would be super useful. I might bring it back for a video. I was working, this is not mine, but this is the Fender Bass Breaker. So I might bring it back for that, because that amp really wants to break up with like power tube saturation in a British style. So that might be fun for that. That said, let's demonstrate some of this. We'll get it going again here. There was, I kind of gave it away early. But the thing I wanted to say first is just the fact that it's now an active circuit. Like the battery's on all the time when you plug it in for the mid boost. Luckily, the Afterburner is on the switch, so it's only on when it's engaged, and this does nothing when it's not on. So it's kind of like, you know, for me, it's kind of comical, because the quest was always, you know, like, oh, if I have a hollow body with enough gain, preamp gain, pushing a compressor or a tube screamer or whatever, you'll get that infinite sustain. So, and this is, like I said, a true hollow body, and it's kind of it's relieved me of some of that. There is a lot to say about the power amp compression when the tubes are cooking and the transformer and all that. So, which is why I've been enjoying the Princeton. So we'll do another video on that. But you can see that the output is already a little hotter. That's one side effect of the Clapton thing. So let's mess with some of that, just right into the tube amp. And our loop is going through the tube amp too, so that's going to push it a little extra. I think I'm pushing the mic input now, so I'm going to have to bring that in. But you're probably getting it through the mic too. You might turn that off a little bit. So we're getting into some of that kind of woman tone thing. You can see, I think that 500 hertz thing was kind of probably bespoke for Sir Eric. So when you roll back the tone knob and you have that little 500 boost, probably from one of his favorite Les Pauls, that's how you get there, in my opinion. Your mileage may vary. But let's try this with some of the pedals. I'll back off the amp volume if I have to with the foot controller. So here's a tube screamer with all the gain off. And let's try the Gilmore boost. Both. And I'll put on the compressor. That should rain. That's really compressing it now. So if I had to kind of put that in terms of the phish rigs we've known and loved over the years, I might put it as this is, you know, I only run one tube screamer on here. I guess I could change that, but it's just a fun, different way to do it. And I thought it's different in when you're not using pedals too, so it's kind of a cool option for that. And I haven't really tried it with any digital stuff yet, so I'm sure that would have all kinds of strange, could have all kinds of strange and fun side effects. Let's hear everything on, just for a quick comparison. There's a coil tap on that. The version 1 definitely doesn't have the coil tap. So yeah, there's a lot less kind of power amp breakup in there. So there's more gain when you have the active electronics, and there's also this kind of silky, slippery thing that happens in my experience. So let me know if you agree with that. And I'm going to plug in the Clapton Strat. And the kind of rap on these coming up was that people didn't really like the noiseless pickups just on their own, because they are stacked like a humbucker. And this still has the TBX circuit, so which has a nice effect. Because when you have all the gain up, so on this guitar, this is the mid boost, This is notched in the center, so it shouldn't be doing much. Alrighty, we're getting a lot of nice sustain there too. I don't even have the boost on. Let's try it. I'm gonna add a little brightness. Try that with a little bit of the cleanup. There we get more into that kind of Clapton sound, which, you know, if you grew up listening to Trey and then you heard Clapton blowing out an old school twin, a high-powered tweed twin, that's not the tone we dream of. But it's kind of cool that it's out there, and that's you know, that's kind of Clapton's thing. I think he's definitely the guy and the vintage guy, and he was out there breaking amps just by turning them up from way before I came on the scene. So it's cool we still have him around playing music. I like seeing his stuff too. And this one I refinished. I saw there was another YouTube guy who did stripped it and liked the tone results. And I prefer the feel of a nitro finish on these. I probably put on too many layers. I might even go do a little bit of the relic thing. I switched out the neck. I didn't love. I've played some Claptons that I really liked, but I got a nice price on this. And I did like the look. This is a road-worn neck. I did like the look, and I feel like I got pretty lucky with this one. I bought it on Reverb. It's a little fuller. It's a 50s road-worn or Vintera neck, depending on what year. 2021, so probably a Vintera. Yeah, so that's the little show and tell about that. So yeah, just wanted to just compare these two, the two hollow bodies, and then just kind of introduce the wacky little project. Because it's fun. I can definitely see bringing that out on jams or gigs when the situation is right, or just recording. It makes some interesting sounds. And this, I've definitely brought this. You know, when I go to town, sometimes I'll just bring this. It really is a really versatile instrument for a Strat, you know, and Strats are pretty versatile to start with. I really like the bridge on these vintage USA Strats. That's another reason why I keep that part of it. Yeah, I think I'm gonna step this one into the freezer or just leave it outside in the winter and try to get some cracking going on the black finish, because I didn't do the best job with the sanding. I got a little lazy there, but the idea was to kind of age it and relic it too. I got my little paisley pick guard on there, just for fun, just to make it a little unique. But hey, thanks for hanging out if you've hung out. If you skipped this part, hey, they're gone. We don't care what they think. So, thanks for turning your phone over if you did. And I hope you can check, if you want to go back and check how some of that affected the decibels in the room, you can. If you have any questions about the pedal board, what's on it, what's going into what, the looper, anything like that, hit me up in the comments. If I've said anything that is totally wrong and ridiculous in your experience, let me know in the comments. Set me straight, or we'll talk about it, or I'll think about it. Because that's how we roll. Peace.